Hi folks, DC here at DC's Gadgets. It is the 14th of May 2019. Do a little bit of a follow-up. Over 2 weeks ago, I went out and took a colony out of a guy's house up in his soffit. And we took the bees out. Didn't actually see the queen. I was pretty confident we got her though, because the bees were behaving that way. Told the homeowner that they'd cluster up overnight and I'd come back the next day to get the foragers. That in fact did happen. And I picked up enough bees to cover both sides of 2 medium frames. And so, as I posted earlier, I had this wild idea. Since I had these queenless bees, I'd throw them in a nuke box and give them some larvae, see what they did. And in fact, they did. I gave them 6. Yeah, I gave them maybe, I don't know. I gave them either 6 or 8 larva grafts. They worked 4 of the 4. 2 of them emerged. The other 2 haven't emerged. I don't expect them to because we're past that date. But hey, so it really worked out. And then in that same box, last week, I took a mated queen out of one of my mating nukes, a 2-frame nuke I had running, and I did not have a virgin to put back in there. So I took all those bees and shook them off the frames in that same box where I had the salvage bees, and gave another frame of honey and some pollen, and I gave them 7 grafts, and of the 7 grafts, they're making 5 queens. So, update on that. It's worked out pretty good. I'll go ahead and run them for 1 more set, and then I'll give them a queen and make it into a nuke. So anyway, on to newer and better things. I talked about planning in a video last week. Also, we got to have a plan. In anything in life, you got to have a plan. Especially, you go in your beehive, you got to have a plan. What are you going to do if? And there's 1,000 different things that can go wrong when you eat your beehive. So I have some ideas. So the topic I want to look at today, though, is you go in there and you pull a frame out and it's covered in queen cells. Now here's a picture of a frame that one of our club members took out of his box, and he put up a picture of it on our club Facebook page. And so the first time I look at this frame, initially I spotted 4 queen cells. Then I went back and looked at it more closely, and it actually looks like there's probably closer to 6 queen cells on that frame. And I made a comment to him, there's probably more on the back side, and he confirmed that yes, there were. So, raise your hands, how many people believe that these are swarm or supersedure cells? Well, if you said that, you'd be wrong. I know that typically the books and people, experienced beekeepers, constantly tell us that bees will make swarm cells and supersedure cells along the bottom of the frame and at the edges of the frame, and they'll make emergency cells in places. Well, these are in fact emergency queen cells, and I know this because this beekeeper in this frame of bees, he moved this from his main colony into a nuke to make a split, and 5 days later came back and this is what he's got. Capped queen cells. So these are emergency cells. And so to kind of dispel the myth about where you're going to find different kind of queen cells in a frame, location doesn't matter on what they're doing. The only thing that location is dependent upon is how old the larva is when they decide to make a queen. Because if they're going to make a swarm cell, they're going to go find a 3.5-day-old egg larva, or whatever. They're going to go find a larva on day 3.5, day 4. If they're going to make a supersedure cell, they're going to find that same thing. If they're going to make an emergency cell, they're going to do the same thing. So the location depends upon the timing. That's all it depends upon. So when you find queen cells in your beehive, the only thing you know for sure is you have queen cells in your beehive. That's it. What they're doing is dependent upon you, the beekeeper, to go in there and figure it out. And it's usually not that hard. If you go in there and you find the queen, and she's laying pretty good, and there's a lot of bees, okay, odds are these are swarm cells. Okay, my beehive is packed, and my queen's still laying pretty good. Or you go in there and you find the queen, and there's a really spotty brood pattern. A lot of brood, not a lot of bees. Okay, these are probably supersedure cells because she's really not very good. Or if you go in there and you can't find any eggs and larvae, well, these are emergency queen cells because something happened, my queen's gone. So, what you're going to do with these things also depends upon these. Now, in a case like this, he's got at least 6 queen cells in this frame. And that can be good or bad. It's nice that the bees are making lots of queens, What's not nice is this is on plastic foundation. They're hard to get off. Also, and I've seen this happen, we know that when your queens come out, the first one to come out is going to typically go out and try to find her sisters and kill her sisters right through the wax. She'll stay right through the wax. And so when you go in your beehive after your queens have emerged, what you're looking for is you're looking for a queen cell with a nice round hole right in the tip. It shows me a queen has emerged, and every other queen cell should be shooting from the sides, so she's gone. If you go in there and you find 3 or 4 that have nice round holes in the tips, that means several came in at the same time and they fought. And the problem is, if that happens, there is a possibility that all your queens could actually kill each other and you got no queen. So, in this particular case, where you found all these queen cells, what I would suggest, and what I suggested to this beekeeper is, cut one of them off. And if it's on just natural comb or just drawn comb, it's pretty easy to cut it off. It's on a foundation, it's kind of tricky. I have done it before. I've successfully pulled some off. I've also chewed some up pretty bad. If you're very careful and you got a good, sharp, flexible knife, you can work it down there on the back of the foundation and get the queen cell off. So cut her off. You want to put her in some kind of a cage and stick her someplace where she can mature. Now, I've got an incubator and I run these little Nicot cages. So that's pretty convenient for me. I can cut the wax off, stick her in this cage, put her in my incubator. Now, most of you don't have that. So you got beehives, other boxes. Right? If you got one of these cages, that's great. Good size. Now, you do not have to have it vertical. The bees make the queens vertical because if they made them horizontal, they'd run into the next frame. She'd never be able to come out. Bees come out horizontal all the time. If you haven't got one of these, I'll bet you got one of these. You know, you had a sinus infection last fall, but you never threw all the drugs away because you didn't finish them all. You know, throw that last 2 pieces of penicillin away. They're no good anyway. Drill some nice small holes in this thing, like 1/8 inch, maybe a little bigger, not much bigger than that. 6, 8, 10, something like that. Take this thing, put a couple drops of honey down the bottom, put the queen cell in there, and you can lay this in the bottom of a frame. Say you got a frame in one of your beehives, it's natural comb. Cut a little section at the very bottom, stick this right in there, and make sure you don't close the holes all up. She'll stay warm, she'll come out. So now, if in your other colony, the one that's queenless making a new queen, if they all come out at the same time and they have this big battle royale and they kill each other off, you get an insurance policy. And if one comes out, she goes out and mates, super. When this one comes out, have you got a beehive that's strong enough to sacrifice 1 frame of brood? Now you can set yourself up a mating nuke. You know? And again, it's insurance policy. So when she comes out, as soon as she comes out, you go out and look in the other box, see if they come out. Now, whenever I find a capped queen cell in a beehive, I treat that as if it was day 9. And it could be day 15. We don't know. I know it's not day 6. No, it could be day 8. I always treat it as day 9. So if I take a capped queen cell and cut it off, stick her in a cage like this, I'm coming back 7 days later because that's day 16 or past. At least day 16, and she should be out. So on that day 16, I'll go back. Now, in this particular case with the frame I showed the picture of, we can go back and find a date pretty easily because we know the day that he moved the frame over to set up his split. That's grafting day. That's day 4 right there. We already know that. So we can figure it from that point. We know the day of this thing here. So if you're in the same situation where you've made a split and you pull a frame out, it's got 15 queen cells on it, man, that's great. But anyway, you made a split and you go back in, 4 or 5 days later, you got queen cells. You know the day you moved it. That's day 4. Or maybe day 5. You want to hedge your bets? Call it day 5. You're a little day earlier. So on day 16, you want to go back and check. You want to check all your queen cells in that split. You're looking for one with a hole in the bottom. And everything else chewed in from the side. If you got that, that's great. Odds are you've got one living queen still in that box. Let her go mate. Go back and check your queen cage, your little makeshift queen cage. Is she running around in there? You got a queen in there. That's great too. Now set you up a mating nuke. Just 1 frame of bees is all you need. Now, if you got a 5-frame box, you can put some empty frame, put some foundation frames on one side. Throw a frame of honey in there. Throw 1 frame of bees in there. Throw some foundation frames in there. Stick your new virgin in there. Now, give her 2 weeks, go out and mate. Plan ahead. That's what the whole thing is about. Plan ahead. Don't go through life without a plan.